What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade basketball analysis coming to you guys with a quick video. Today we're going to talk about one of the hottest topics going around in the NBA. Should the Thunder give up? Was this a bust? Was it worth trading Sabonis and Oladipo, two young prospects that only can get better as time go by? And now that Victor Oladipo in Domantas Sabonis is having career years. Victor Oladipo looks like he's going to be an all-star. He's putting up numbers, plus they're winning games. This Sabonis is averaging 12 and 8. And then you still have players like Enes Kanter that's even having a career high, getting more minutes, finally starting, and he's putting up the numbers that he needs to. But we're going to talk about Paul George. Paul George is a guy that I thought would be a perfect fit. Not that he'd been a terrible fit with Russell Westbrook, but I thought he'd be the perfect guy. The guy isn't really egotistical. He's humble. He can knock down threes in the corner, at the top of the key, off the dribble, off screens. And he still has did that. He's shooting a career high from three. He's getting threes in transition. Russell Westbrook and Carmelo sometimes take attention off of him, and he's able to shoot the three wide open and get good looks. And one of my biggest gripes about Paul George was that he had bad shot selection. He settled for too many jumpers, and when his jump shot wasn't falling, he really didn't contribute in other ways. And I'm not including defense, I'm talking about offensively. But sometimes in the playoffs, he's a way better ball handler and he's a way better playmaker, but he only plays like that in the playoffs. In a regular season, he's just a solid playmaker and ball handler. He having a good year this year, averaging 3 assists. That's around what he always averaged. But his assist goes way up during the playoffs because they need Paul George to do more offensively, and they need him to carry the team, especially when the offense gets stagnant. He needs to bail out the offense, and he steps his game up to another level to me when it comes to the playoffs. Obviously, he never been to the NBA Finals, but he has been to the Eastern Conference Finals twice, with his best player being Lance Stevenson and Roy Hibbert. He was able to beat Kyrie. He was able to beat Carmelo when Carmelo had a 50-win season and a scoring title season. Paul George was able to put him out so they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, they beat the Washington Wizards and John Wall and them to get to another Eastern Conference Final. He's long, he's lanky, he's a tough guy because he does have the body now, and he has the athleticism and the quickness and the lankiness to protect the rim, get steals, play the passing lanes, and the guy can play. The problem is that he hasn't been the ideal fit that we all wanted. He's still struggling from the field. Like I told you guys, he relies so much on the jump shot that if it's not falling, he doesn't really impact the game the way that he would in the playoffs. And on top of that, he has Russell. Russell likes the ball in his hands. He likes to set up everybody. He likes to be in attack mode, and he wants to draw the attention so he can make his teammates better by passing the ball. When the defenses collapse or he draws too much attention, or when he gets out in transition, he can put pressure on the defense, and it takes pressure and looks off Paul George, and that has worked. But other than that, this hasn't been the fit that we expected. Paul George had a lot of talent last year in Indiana. They made the playoff. They underperformed. We all thought the Pacers was going to be better because they had more talent. And honestly, they flopped and failed. And it's the same way this year. His efficiency was at an all-time high last year. And this year, he's not really as efficient from the field. He's shooting 41%, mainly because he's mainly scoring in the perimeter. He's not really getting to the paint. He's not really getting layups and dunks. And I don't even believe he's getting to the free throw line that much. But he's shooting 4 free throws a game. His career high is 6. So he's not even getting to the free throw line as much. He's shooting 17 shots a game, and 7 of them are threes. So that just shows you that he's taking majority of his shots on the perimeter, which means if he's not making that jumper, he's not really impacting the game offensively the way that he could. And that's my whole argument with Russell and Carmelo. He doesn't get the amount of touches. He doesn't get the comfortability of having how many touches, the shots that he wants. He has to get the shots that they're willing to give him. He has to score within the offense, and that has messed up his rhythm. He doesn't get as many shots in the quarter. Some games he get more shots than others. Some games he get less shots because they have more talent, which is Carmelo, Russell, Steven Adams. So that has impacted his numbers too. He like LaMarcus Aldridge effect. But this reminds me a little bit before I end the video of Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was one of the top 5 players in the league. Orlando was at a point where they was a contender, but they could never get over the hump. They got to the finals, but only was able to win 1 game. And they was in a situation where Dwight Howard wasn't happy, the coach wasn't happy, and the team was going from a contender to they don't even know what's going to happen. They trade Dwight Howard to the Lakers. Then they had Paul Gasol traded for Steve Nash, and they built this super team that everybody wanted to see. Like, oh my God, they got Dwight, they got Steve Nash, they got Kobe, and they still got Paul Gasol. But it never really panned out. They ended up becoming a mediocre team, basically a terrible team. They stayed around below 500, but not too deep below 500. Kind of like what the Thunder doing now. That's why I brought up the comparison. But they was able to win their last couple games in the last 2 weeks, which put them over 500 and helped them sneak into the playoffs. But Steve Nash was injured. Kobe got injured trying to help carry the team to the playoffs, and he got took out with Achilles, I believe. And Dwight Howard was able to win the game against the Spurs and stuff like that to help them seal the deal as a playoff team. And Dwight Howard really didn't do anything. He went to the playoffs and the offense ran through him. We knew that they wasn't going to beat the Spurs, but I don't even think they won the game. I think they got swept and Dwight Howard got ejected and all that. But Dwight left. He got traded to, oh, it's LA, you have Kobe, you have Nash, you have Paul Gasol, you still getting paid your money because they still offered him a contract. Obviously, he ended up going to Houston instead of staying, and that's what we see here. Paul George was a little unhappy in Indiana. They thought he wasn't going to re-sign, kind of like Dwight Howard, so they traded him out of Indiana, just like when Dwight got traded out of Orlando. And next thing you know, Paul George went to a team with 3 stars. He was one of them. And then they had Steven Adams. They have Carmelo. And they have Russell Westbrook. And now it's not really working. They're hovering around 500. They barely out of the playoffs. And they only need 1 run. Like I told you, they can go on a 5-6 game winning streak, get barely above 500, and be a 7th or 8th seed. That's the same thing the Lakers did when they traded for Dwight and Steve Nash. They hovered around mediocrity. They was a terrible team all season, but they got it right in the last 2 weeks and snuck into the playoffs. And that's exactly what the Thunder might do. They're good enough to compete with anybody. They have the talent to compete with anybody. But at the end of the day, they're not built chemistry-wise as to fit like we thought they would. We thought that they had enough IQ. We thought that they had enough basketball knowledge to make this work, and it's working good enough that they still in the playoff race. But I think that this Thunder team needs to stay together because you lost Sabonis and Oladipo just to get Paul George, and then you trade him. It's kind of like the Serge Ibaka trade too. You trade for Serge Ibaka, then you get rid of him for a bag of peanuts. And then it was like, what was the point of getting Serge Ibaka if you wasn't going to keep him? And now that you have to get rid of him, you basically got even worse. You traded a lot for Serge, and you're getting really nothing in return for Serge. And I don't really think that's a good trade or a good method. You want to at least get something decent back or some type of player back, especially if you traded for a player. You don't want to lose everything. Kind of like buying a game. You buy the game for $65, and then you turn it in, you only get $30. That's a huge loss. That's why people sell it on eBay, Craigslist, and the Facebook community, marketplace, because you can sell it for 40, 45 instead of selling it for 30 to GameStop. And then you only get the in-store credit. And if you want cash, you get even more less than what you would get compared to the trade value. So let me know what you guys think. Do you like the comparison to Dwight getting forced out to the Lakers to get something back in return, and then next thing you know, he ended up leaving anyway? Or do you think the Thunder won't make the playoffs? Do you think they'll hover around below 500 and make a run? Do you think that they not gonna make the playoffs at all? Is it Paul George? I think Paul George ain't the problem. Carmelo hasn't really adjusted. He hasn't really shot the ball well either. He's been a okay 3-point shooter. He hit some clutch buckets, but it hasn't really equaled and became wins. Russell still struggles from the field, still struggles in the fourth quarter, takes a lot of bad shots. Not really the best team player. He's working a little bit better defensively, but he's still trying to get his triple doubles. He's still stealing rebounds. He's still trying to pad his stats instead of trying to win basketball games. He has shot terrible a lot of these games, shooting a career low from the three and a career low from the field. Maybe it is Russell. Everybody came and played with Russell. He struggled really to play with KD. That's why he left. James Harden left because they didn't want to pay him. But that was a time where we thought, well, he played good with James. He played good with KD. Played good with Ibaka. And he couldn't really do it with Carmelo and Paul George and Steven Adams. So I don't think they should trade him because they're not going to really get that much in return. But then again, they might not get nothing in return because he can still leave. I don't think Paul George is happy. I don't think he wants to stay. I think he obviously wants to observe his options and make a move that benefits his family and him and still be on a contender that he actually can find a role and be successful at. And I don't really know what team that is. But I know that he needs to get out of OKC, whether it's free agency or trades, because this is not really working. And even if they do make the playoffs, I don't really see them beating San Antonio. I don't really see them beating Houston. And I don't really see them beating Golden State. They play too good of defense. Their offense is a lot better. They have better chemistry. And they play more well and they function better with each other. And OKC, they out of function. They don't have the best chemistry. They don't really have. Carmelo is more easier to guard because he's not as athletic and as quick as he used to be, and that makes it tough for him to score, and it makes him tough because he relies more and more on his jump shot, and that's where it's at. If his jump shot not falling just like Paul George, they're not really getting a lot of good looks anyway, and then they taking tough shots on top of that, and they relying on the hardest shot in the game, which is the jumper. Jump shots is the hardest shots in the game, not the layup, not the free throw. It's just shooting perimeter threes and perimeter jump shots. And if they're going to live off mid-range and perimeter jump shots, they're going to be in for a long day. And even Russell Westbrook, he's not the best perimeter jump shooter, and he's not the best three-point shooter. So at the end of the day, they don't fit together because they all basically play the same isolation jump shot basketball, and none of them are outstanding shooters. Check out my website, analysisplayrun.com. Link will be in the description, comment section below. Also, check out my Facebook page, analysisplayrun.com. Link will be in the description and comment section below. Click the link, it's into my website. Click the link, it's into my Facebook. If you're on Facebook, check out my website and my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel will be pinned on my Facebook page, and my website will too. So you can just click on my Facebook page, and then send you to my website, send you to my my YouTube. And if you're on Twitter, it already sends you a video. Click the video and then send you to my YouTube account. But don't forget to check out my website, and that will be in my description of my Twitter account, Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis. I'm gone, and let me know what you guys think about the OKC Thunder and if they should get rid of Paul George or Carmelo, or just blow it up, or just stay together and see what you can do, because they can compete with anybody. They have enough talent to compete with anybody, but they haven't been able to put it together. Should they stay together for the rest of the season? Should they see if they can get it together, or should they just try to get what they can get in return and try to find another way to rebuild the team for next year?